Hello everyone, this is Rick and welcome to Astral Club. This episode is Reincarnation and Identity. Before I get into it, just want to mention that there's Patreon if you'd like to support the work of Astral Club and spreading knowledge about spirituality and, of course, astral projection. Our newest patron is Dragon Arts Academy, who is an astral scout. And, of course, this person will be getting downloaded episodes available to patrons that you can put on your podcast app and listen to offline. There's no commercials. There's an email where we can talk back and forth and share experiences. And, of course, you get your advanced videos on Sunday. If you're interested, there is a link in the description. Next up are private lessons. If you'd like to learn to astral project, be glad to send you information. You'll find an email in the description where you can request that information. Okay, let's discuss reincarnation and identity. Now, this is an extremely hot topic right now. It's very controversial. It seems to be at the center of our cultural wars right now. I am neutral in this war because I don't have a dog in this fight other than the fact that I believe that as humans, we owe each other love, understanding, and empathy. That's my central concept. I am not an expert in any sense of the word on this subject. I am going to discuss some of the basics based on what little background research I was able to do that wasn't completely contradictory. And then I'm going to get into something I know a little bit about, which is the reincarnation process and why I think some of these difficulties are encountered by people who have incarnated into bodies that they do not feel accurately represent who they are inside. Now, according to the American Psychiatric Association and the DSM-5, gender dysphoria refers to psychological distress that results from an incongruence between one's sex assigned at birth and one's gender identity. I think that's probably the most accurate definition of gender dysphoria. As I have been doing some research, though, I found another website that considered the term gender dysphoria as, quote, problematic, because in practice, the trans community is not monolithic, and that not all of them would suffer or do suffer from gender dysphoria as it has just been defined. So I'm just going to leave it there in that there is controversy between some basic definitions. Indeed, this site said that just having a particular definition for a diagnosis puts a roadblock in the way of people who maybe don't have this particular dysphoria, yet still require some sort of medical intervention. At any rate, like I said, they called the very term itself problematic. So, the more research I did, the more contradictory evidence I tripped across. So I'm going to just leave it like that, and then I'm going to discuss in an area that I'm a bit more comfortable in, which is the spiritual side of things, especially as it is involved in reincarnation. Now, souls, as I have discussed numerous times before, are energy matrices that learn and grow through experience. They are able to incarnate in any physical body that their energy and soul evolutionary level are a match for. In the current soul evolution on Earth, that physical form manifests as human. Presently, that means that a typical soul incarnating on Earth must choose a male or female body, with some rare exceptions. I've noticed that most souls have more lifetimes favoring traditionally masculine or feminine incarnations as a rule. Today we know that masculine and feminine tends to be more of a spectrum than a bipolar type situation. And folks who find themselves in this predicament in this lifetime here on Earth often suffer from anxiety, depression, negative self-image, strong dislike of their sexual anatomy, and other symptoms which should elicit love and empathy from all of their fellow humans. However, not all folks suffer all of these particular symptoms. But let's get into some of, I think, the root causes where folks find themselves not comfortable in the particular body that they ended up inhabiting. Number one is what I call the New Year's Eve resolution. Now, I'm not being funny here. I just like to give examples that allow people, everyone for the most part, to identify, saying that, oh yes, I recall when that happened to me. So that's why I'm offering this example. In a New Year's resolution, we typically decide that in this upcoming year, we're going to make a serious change. We're going to stop smoking. We're going to eat healthier. We're going to exercise more. We're going to get that gym membership and go every single day, or at least every other day, or at least once a week, or definitely once a month. The fact of the matter here is, as humans, we often have the best of intentions, but somewhere along the line, we kind of lose track of our original idea to improve ourselves as we get caught up in everyday life. This is a common situation for, I think, most people who have listened and are listening to this particular podcast. Now, regret, of course, can manifest to one degree or another after reincarnation. I gave you a fairly soft pedal example, but when you're dealing with a situation where someone, a soul, decides that it is going to make a major change, it perhaps has had a majority of lifetimes, as many souls do, in one particular sex. And now, to even out their experience, they make the conscious decision to choose the opposite sex so that they can have a better chance of experiencing what it's like to be in a body that is very dissimilar from the bodies that they've chosen in the past. And they make this decision with some added advice normally, and they make it with the best of intentions. unfortunately, sometimes they find themselves regretting that decision throughout the remainder of their life. The second way, I think, that sometimes we end up in situations where souls don't feel at home in the body that they've been assigned or have chosen is that they ignore the sex of the fetus to be near someone they love or to work out karma that needs to be addressed. Believe it or not, it can be somewhat easy if you've been on the astral for a while to lose touch with the whole idea of sex, masculine, feminine, what have you, once you've been on the astral for long enough. Because once again, the soul itself is not natively any sex. It is all and nothing at the same time. It is merely energy that is expressing itself in a matrix and needs growth and needs experience to expand and become enlightened. So sometimes they'll go ahead and just make a decision based on various goals without even considering the sex of the fetus and how that might affect them in their next physical lifetime. Another happenstance that does affect this particular situation is that a choice is made very quickly without a lot of forethought because the soul is in a hurry to correct what it considers major errors that it made in its last lifetime. As you might expect, whenever rapid decisions are made, especially very important ones, that there are times that we regret that we made that particular decision without thinking about it a little bit more carefully. Lastly, I know there are various noble souls who intentionally incarnate into a difficult situation as a way to inspire others and bring wisdom. Now, that difficult situation can be a dysfunctional family. It could be someone who is in a religion that they feel needs to be reformed. There's a wide variety of reasons why someone would take on a very tough lifetime. Perhaps they want to make some changes in laws or in humanity itself and how it's currently responding to the challenges. And of course, there's also souls who I suspect are choosing to find themselves in bodies that they don't identify with as a way to not only challenge themselves, but to act as an example to others as a way to show love and empathy and to engender those feelings in their fellow humans. These are some of my examples that I have seen in the reincarnation process. There are many others that can lead to what the DSM-5 describes as gender dysphoria. And it's a situation that I do not envy those who find themselves in. It must be a profoundly disturbing, uncomfortable, and lots of other much more serious adjectives, and adverbs, and what have you, that makes their life journey particularly challenging. And I don't have anything more to add to this situation. As far as the active issue itself, there seems to be more than enough voices on all sides of this dilemma, and I'm certainly not qualified to add my voice to this enormous chorus that seems to be always shouting one another down and very sure that they're right and the other side is absolutely wrong. I don't believe that cultural wars are always in the best interest of a civilization. We can have conflict, we can have disagreements, but we can't lose sight of our humanity because that's what unites us all together. And if we lose sight of that fact, which to my mind is by far the most important fact that everyone should keep in mind, that we are all one, we're all humans, and we're all going through similar challenges, and that we owe it to one another to be supportive, to be empathetic, to assist, to show love and understanding. And as you know, I was raised in Christianity. And while I may not be closely associated with that religion anymore, I identify with many of its philosophical concepts. For instance, loving one another as we love ourselves. I think if we can master that, everything else will fall into line, and we can jointly evolve as a species and then eventually move on to higher planes of existence rather than continually fighting amongst one another and constantly being confined to our present level of existence, which is not necessarily ideal. So that's my 2 cents on this topic. I hope it was of some interest. If you liked it, please hit the like button, share it with those of like minds. Subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure that bell is solid so you're notified on Wednesday afternoon and Saturday morning when the new episodes are posted. I welcome your questions and comments. Please, let's keep them civil. Now, I know Astral Club, I shouldn't even have to mention that because 99.9% of you guys are amazing. But I know this is a very tender subject. So I have kept it extremely, I hope, calm, sensible, and coming from a loving outlook, which I believe that despite whatever ignorance as a baby boomer I currently suffer from, you have to give me a break. When I was younger and growing up and whatever, I was aware vaguely of this issue, but it was fairly obscure to my experience, so it wasn't something I thought about. Naturally, that has changed over the years, but I still kind of find myself out of depth. At any rate, I do welcome your questions and your comments. And as always, this is Rick, and I'll see you on the astral plane.